Very good morning to you. It's Gene from maverickstar. Guys, I just checked the video, and not just this one, but there's a few of my videos that have been recently put up there, and on the bottom of the video you'll note that the United Nations have decided to put their version of their truth about what is actually responsible for global warming. So I thought we would have a look at their argument where they deliver the facts based on their scientists and see what they say is actually responsible for the climate change, because I think it's quite laughable, especially when you just read what they've got there. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns, mainly caused by human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels. Well, they state that it's long-term. So how exactly, in their view, what do they consider long-term? Let's get into it. But before we do, a big thanks just to a few people that yesterday took it upon themselves to get behind us and back us on what we're doing here. So it's not many people. We'll probably have 4,000 people watch this video by the end of the day, and I sometimes say, and especially it's worth noting on a Sunday, if you went to church, you wouldn't see 4,000 people in there, especially these days. Nobody seems to bother with those things anymore, do they? But we will have 4,000 people view this video, and it would be amazing if we could just encourage a few more people, to stand with us and fight companies and organisations like this, because it's very easy to put them down in what they're saying. And I mean, straight away they're talking about long-term shifts in weather patterns, but they're not going back that long at all, especially when considering this age of this planet, and they won't even go back even 1 million years in the climate history. But you'd think an organisation like the United Nations would be more professional and would state a better case. But what they're clearly relying on is people's ignorance and the fact that they don't have time to look into these things. So they consider themselves a reputable organisation with reputable and credible people, but when actually you look at what they've got to offer on the topic of climate change, it's really not a lot, and it's badly put together. And even small observatories like ours can very quickly put the record straight with regards to just one thing like climate. So let's look into it. Let's click on that link and see where it takes us. So what we're going to find when we click on that link is we're going to be taken to the United Nations climate action page, and I'll just read a bit of this. Let's start with their title, what is climate change? Let's have a listen to what they believe is climate change and what's responsible for it. So climate change refers to the long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. Such shifts can be natural due to changes in the sun's activity or large volcanic eruptions, but since the 1800s, human activity have been the main driver for climate change, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels like coal and gas. So their argument here for climate change is that humans have been burning way too much carbon-based fuels like oil, gas, and coal, and they've been doing it for the last 200 years, and it's been this, and they've even underlined it, human activities have been the main driver of climate change. Just a few facts. First of all, CO2 is what they're saying we're responsible for emitting when we burn these fuels. Yet CO2 in the atmosphere only equates for, are you ready for this? 0.04%. And the majority of that, nearly 0.5% in the atmosphere, nearly 99% of that is emitted by natural processes from the oceans and the land. So when you look at how much we are actually responsible for contributing towards the very little amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, we personally are responsible for something which will be considered negligible. Nothing. And they go back to the 1800s, where you'd think that an organisations with the amount of money that they've got would actually do a little bit more research on this, because they don't even know, do they? They don't even mention the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, because it was a little bit before the 1800s. It was actually 1770 was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, but their temperature charts don't go back that long. Now I want to ask a question. If you want a good look at what's happening and get a good idea of what's taking place on our Earth, would you prefer evidence of climate change just going back to the 1800s, or would you like a more in-depth historical version of what's taking place on our Earth? And that might include going back, I don't know, 500,000 years? Which would carry more weight in your point of view? You know, which would be more accurate? So, you know, this organisation, what a lot of people are, you know, not oblivious to, but you know, they a lot of people don't even know that the organisation, the United Nations in this case, is made up of a body of people, none of which have been elected by any member of public around the world. Can you believe that? They are self-proclaimed. No, and yet they've got more power than any country. This organisation tells other countries what to do. And I just think it's shameful that they've got their facts so far wrong. It almost is an embarrassment to this organisation. But I don't even think they care. What's driving them isn't the climate or the changes in our climate, or even the truth relating to any of this. What's driving them is pure money and greed and corruption. We've seen exactly what organisations like this actually do in times of crisis. Nothing. They absolutely contribute nothing but lies. Let's have a look at one of the charts. Before we have a look at some of the charts, just look at this, and this is what I'm trying to get through to you guys out there. We can pay the bill now, or we can pay dearly in the future. Climate action requires significant financial investments by governments and businesses, but climate inaction is vastly more expensive. One critical step is for industrialised countries to fulfil the commitment to provide 100 billion a year to developing countries so that they can adapt and move towards greener economies. Now, you go to the shops later on, guys, and your food and groceries cost probably twice, maybe 3 times more than what they did last year. You can thank the United Nations for that. And, you know, these energy costs that we're all having to pay now globally, just imagine how they managed to pull this off. It was the United Nations got together with the energy companies and drive up the prices. And I'll tell you, you would not believe the scam that they managed to pass here in the United Kingdom. They knew people couldn't afford to pay for their energy, so the government issued vouchers around £70 a month to every household to put towards the cost of the rising energy bills, because people couldn't afford to. So what the government done was put money in the energy owner pockets. directly using taxpayers' money to give to the energy companies in a voucher. Not many people even figured this out, but that's exactly what they did. Now, what do you think happened to the stocks and share prices of these energy companies when word got out that billions of pounds was going to be given to the general public, which in turn would give back to the energy companies? What do you think happened to their stocks and shares prices? They went up. So they profited not just by the fact that they're charging twice as much now or 3 times as much now for their energy that they sell to the general public, but they're also making money for the shareholders, because when the shareholders realised that the government were going to be handing out these vouchers in the millions, they knew that the share prices of these companies was going to rise, and that was good business for everyone in this little net and circle. So, I'm not joking. We are trying to take on, a mountain of an organisation and trying to set the record straight. And if nobody does that, they're going to continue getting into your wallets. In very simple terms, you're already paying now, do you understand? The green taxes are going to keep on increasing. We've got clean air zones now in cities, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it is, what good would raising money from clean air environments where cars are not allowed unless they're electric? What benefit by raising all this money can it do in terms of reducing the CO2 out of the atmosphere? Just tell me that. This has been a lucrative business which has been merely invented on the back of the weakest supporting science you will ever come across. If you look at where they stick the weather stations next to air conditioning fans, sides of roads, all the places you would never dream of as a scientist putting these temperature things, because they're all in regions and placed specifically so that they do read higher temperatures. And of course, that is what they're doing to support their claims that, global warming is getting hotter. They've never brought to your attention the fact that the glaciers in the Arctic Circle have rebounded by 1.8 million square kilometres. This is a chunk of an area the size of Europe. They've never mentioned it once. For the year in, year out, for the last 10 years, the Arctic ice has been increasing. Now, if the world was getting hotter, surely these temperature-sensitive regions on our planet would be affected. But what we're seeing is a rebound. I want to show you their chart, what they usually use. So this is their chart they like to show. And this is by the International Panel on Climate Change, directly linked to the United Nations. This is what they're suggesting. If we do nothing and the emissions keep rising as the population grows, we will see global temperatures warm by more than 4 degrees Celsius by 2080. But what makes me laugh more than anything else is at the beginning of the chart, going back from the 1900s to 1950s, they call it historical observations. I've only gone back to the 1900s and it's already historical. It makes me laugh. It really does. The scale of this chart just makes me titter. I can't help it. But, it's mind-boggling. These people have put such a poor argument across, and they've got away with it to the tune that they raise billions of pounds, and that they've convinced everybody that they're the ones responsible for changing the climate on this planet. They'd never show you a chart like this one, and I can just imagine them if they do come on to watch these videos, anyone from these organisations, what they'd say at this point, they'd say, "Harley Barley Gene, you can't go showing temperature curves over the last 15,000 years. Well, you know why they wouldn't want me to show you that? It's because we can clearly see that the climate and temperature today has been obviously warmer, you know, just going back over the last 8,000 years. We've had the medieval warm period, the Roman warm period, and the Lucian warm period. And of course, all these periods of time where the Earth has been warmer, you could never blame it on Industrial Revolution, because the Industrial Revolution began at 1760. And of course, before all that time, there was no Industrial Revolution. There wasn't burning fossil fuels at the rate at which were burned today. But the temperatures were hotter, which means clearly, you know, CO2 does not drive the climate like they say. And they said that they've got the science right. And they don't want to have the argument no more. They don't want to debate it no more. Well, the reason why they don't want to debate it anymore is because when you show them a chart like this, you can't deny it. We have obviously experienced a lot warmer temperatures in the last 8,000 years, which was before the time of the Industrial Revolution, which was well before we was, you know, pulling up out the ground coal and oil and burning it. You know, it's incredible. They don't want the debate because they don't want the truth. We haven't even in this video touched on the subject of the other two anomalies which are hindering the climate on our planet, and more so than CO2 could ever. And we're talking about the fact that the Earth is going through a magnetic reversal, a rare anomaly. And then the other fact, that's what's been happening over the last 40 years with the low solar output activity, you know, in as far as sunspots are concerned, because we know it directly affects the heliosphere. It shrinks the heliosphere back in on the solar system, allowing more galactic and intergalactic cosmic rays to come through into our solar system. And then when we have a weakened magnetosphere, our primary protective field weakening, you know, it starts to strip away the upper atmosphere, thinning it. They won't even talk about these things. Yet they will, when somebody else is trying to set the record straight, stick one of their climate change banners on my video. And all I can say about that is, if what I was saying had no truth in it, why would they waste their time making sure that that banner went on there? Because in the videos I don't mention in the title climate change, and I don't put it in the description. So somebody must watch these videos and, you know, feel it's justified to put one of those banners on. You know, we're trying to set the record straight here on one of the biggest lies that has ever been pulled on humanity. I mean, in the historical path of humans being on this planet, this is the biggest corruption ever swingled on the general public, and they didn't even do a good job of it. You know, you don't need to be a scientist to figure out the lies. If our Earth was overheating right now, there wouldn't be any ice caps on the North and South Pole, and you certainly would not have, for the last 10 years, ice rebounding to the tune of 1.8 million square kilometres. Guys, there's a link down there if you want to help support us. You know, it depends on whether you're interested enough to want to straighten the record. once and for all. You know, we're up against United Nations with billions and billions of pounds. You know, we sadly get a couple of donations a day, and I think that that should change. If you're really interested in the future for your children and yourselves, then, you know, you have to make a small investment in trying to set the record straight. That might cost, you know, a coffee, you know, a sandwich. If we all do our own little bit, we can change. I guarantee you. This lie is so easily to disprove. It just needs a little bit of momentum, a few people to get together and say, right, we're gonna change it. We're gonna set the record straight, and we're not putting up with this no more. Because trust me, this is costing you thousands of pounds a year, easy. In just the last 12 months, it's cost you over £1,000 in just energy prices going up, which meant that everything else went up. Your groceries, your fuel, you know, your entertainment, the lot went up. So you're paying for it. They're not even asking you or giving you a choice, they're just taking it off you. At least here you have an opportunity to make that decision. And I know for a lot of people, they can't afford the extra time to do something about it, but you know, you can support somebody that is. You can support us here. Links down there. Guys, you have an amazing Sunday with your families and friends and loved ones. I'll say what I usually do. As always, bye for now.